This is going to be a quick setup lesson. We're going to be setting up the HTML code. I'll also cover the editor that I'm using, the browser that I'm using, and how we can use the dev tools in order to output JavaScript content for debugging into the console. And within our JavaScript code, we're going to create a separate JS file and linking that to our HTML with the source within the script tags, and then selecting the one page element that we have that has a class of output and bringing it into an object variable that's called output, and then using that and outputting that into the console. So that's coming up in this lesson. We're going to be setting up the developer environment in preparation for the upcoming coding lessons. So I've got my editor opened here on the left-hand side of the screen, and on the right-hand side, I've got the browser window opened. I'm going to be using a Chrome browser, and the editor that I'm using is called Visual Studio Code. So if you're not familiar with Visual Studio Code, or if you want to use the same editor that I'm using, it's available at code.visualstudio.com, and from there you can select and download the version for your operating system. I'm also going to be making use of the Chrome dev tools. So again, the browser is opened on the right-hand side, and I've minimized it so we can see the output from the code as we're creating it, and you can see the results within the browser. And there's also the dev tools that's open. So in order to open up developer tools, you can right click anywhere on your page, or on a Mac, you can control click, and that will have the pop-up window where you can select inspect. In addition, you can go to the top right-hand side where you've got the three dots and select the more tools, and then open up the developer tools. And there's also a shortcut in order to open developer tools. So that's going to be the window here in the bottom right-hand side. And this gives us an ability to write some JavaScript code and have it rendered out, and also communicate and debug our JavaScript code as we're editing and writing it. So open up your editor and create your HTML file. So I've just got one called index.html, got the standard HTML tags, and also included a div that's got a class of output. So this is going to be our main element that we're going to be selecting for the coding lessons coming up. And we're also going to be linking out to the JS file. So from the script tags, we can link out to code1.js, and that's the JavaScript file that I've created for the lessons. And this is going to be sitting on the same directory as the index page, so we're able to link to it just with providing the file name. So I've got the file name here, and starting out, we'll select the element. So using the Document.querySelector method, this will allow us to select an element from the page. The element that we're selecting is going to be the output element. And then I'm also going to output that and log that into the console to make sure that our JavaScript is connected. So you can do that as well. So create your HTML file, create your JavaScript file, and select your page element that has a class of output. And then once you've got it within an object, output that object into the console, and as you hover over it, it should highlight the part of the page where that element is sitting. And within the index, you will need to have a class of output in order to select the element. And this is being selected by class, so we do prefix it with a dot. And this is using the query method, which allows us to select page elements from the document object and bring them into our JavaScript code. And the document object, and that's this object right here. So if we were to select that and to output the document object into the console, you can see that this contains all of the page content, and this is rendered out within the browser, and it's a virtual representation of the HTML code. So that gives us an ability to select it with JavaScript and also manipulate it. And it also contains several methods that are useful in making selections and manipulations of the page elements. So once you've selected the page element and you've output it into the console, you're ready to move on to the next lesson. We're going to get started with coding.